Now, I want to contrast it to the social networking idea, which it's not my intention to dump on it horribly or anything. If you would find it entertaining for me to do that, I can reserve a little bit of that for question time. But what I do want to point out is that just as digital musical instruments don't give you a channel to the sort of ultimate acuity that you can get with acoustic ones, digital representations of people don't give you the acuity that you get on the sidewalk. Now, one of the things I've noticed casually is that now, as compared to a few years ago, there are fewer people sitting in cafes in Manhattan who are staring at their screen while they're in the cafe. It's a very interesting thing to me. I've been paying close attention. I've been here since Sunday, and every time I come to New York, I always go around to cafes and other places where people hang out, and everyone has their little smartphone and their tablet or their laptop or something. A few years ago, it was very common to go into a cafe and everybody's staring at their laptop and their smartphone. And it was sort of course, this was remarked on a lot, the sort of comedy of having all these people together, but they're staring at their screens. I just have my small sample of 1 week of experience, but I have to say I've gone around a lot and I haven't seen that anymore. It seems to have changed. Is that your experience? No? You're still seeing that? Because I've been really struck by it, and I've gone to all kinds of different neighborhoods. I mean, I see it sometimes, but I've seen a lot less of it. I've also seen a lot less of the people on the sidewalks, like staring at their thing and walking into traffic and all. So I might be wrong about that. It's a small sample. I was curious about your take on it. When people, it's spring. Do you think it's hormones? Okay. No, I cool. So you think, we can test your theory, because then you should see a lot more noses buried in screens in a month or something, right? That's the test. You see, it's empiricism. Well, that should be the case. Okay, so maybe it's just spring. Anyway, what I've noticed on social networking reminds me a great deal of what I noticed 33 years ago. Is it? Eek! That's freaky to say. When I first lived in Manhattan, which is, yeah, God, 33 years. Anyway, which is that the people who are doing all the right things, which is, accumulating tons of followers and fans and whatever the term is for the given business that they're communicating through, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or whatever, the people who are assiduously building this virtual thing and doing all these things that you're supposed to do to answer your ambitions tend to actually be kind of spinning their wheels in place. Not universally, but I found it to be extraordinarily so. Once again, this isn't science. This is just, I might be biased in my observations. So observe. I'd like you to, though, take it as a challenge to look around you and see if it appears to be true to you and the people that you see. So I'm a little concerned here that when we connect to each other through digital representations that are tremendously reduced, tremendously impoverished compared to what we get from each other, even in a moment's mutual perception on a sidewalk, that we lose something, that we enter into a bit of an unreal world in which things seem to happen but actually don't as much. Now, this gets to the heart of the critical side of some of my thinking recently. What I'd like to do is, in this case this evening, put that critical perspective in a historical context and relate it to cities, since we're talking about cities. So if we go, remember we talked about Jacquard's programmable loom. So looms come up again and again in the history of digital technologies and in the history of technology in general. And another case is with the Luddites. So we use the term Luddite pretty frequently as somebody who, isn't on Facebook or something. I've seen that. It's like, you pathetic Luddite, you're not on Facebook. And the Luddites were actually people who worked in textile mills, who were facing unemployment because of better mechanized loom technology, and smashed the machines and rioted, and there was a whole thing about it. And I'm not claiming that they're entirely sympathetic, but the interesting thing about the Luddites is that in the 19th century, their dilemma was very keen for all to see and became the center of a worldwide debate. Some other examples of similar, once again, tropes instead of memes are the Ballad of John Henry is a song you might know about a guy who's being threatened with unemployment because there's an automated railroad track layer, and he has this competition, and he's able to beat the machine, but he dies from exhaustion to do it. Famous tune. So what happened is in the 19th century, there was this realization that technology was probably going to keep on getting better, that we had embarked on a ramp where things started to get better and better, and that it wasn't an option to not go up this ramp because it was just saving too many lives and making too many lives better. And here is where I'm going to be a little techno-utopian, because I think it's justified and quite appropriate. I think we tend to have a phony historical memory sometimes, a sort of Rousseauian fallacy, where we think that earlier times of less advanced technology were somehow better, more authentic, sweeter, healthier, something like that. And in isolated ways, I think sometimes that is true, but I think overall it's really not. If you go back in history, you find the further you go back, the more hunger, misery, disease, inequity, lack of freedom, miserably small horizons for massive numbers of people, the more awful things you find. In the history of Europe, forced cannibalism was not uncommon until fairly recently. I mean, it's really extraordinary, and that's also quite true in China. So the more you look into what life was like, the more you realize what a gift technology has been. The way I like to try to come to a balance on this, because it is controversial, there are a great many people who think that technology is the problem. I was just at this thing. There's a famous political activist who lives near me. He's a buddy named Daniel Ellsberg in Berkeley. And I was invited to his house, and it turned out that the whole purpose was to be ambushed by these people who think technology is really bad, and it's ruined food, and it's ruined life, and everything. So there are a lot of sort of New Age people that think that, and it simply isn't true. So the thing is, even in the late 19th century, it was already becoming clear that the benefits of technology were so overwhelming. Also, just the sort of enthusiasm and excitement of it, just the possibility that people, through effort, could improve our own lot, that there wasn't any sensible stopping it. It was a stupid project to try to halt it. Now, I think steering it is a different story. So I've come to a sort of what I think is a balanced way to think about this question, which is, I don't think that technology automatically makes people better, because certainly improved technologies can be used to hurt people. You can make a bigger bomb or whatever. It's certainly possible to use technologies in arbitrarily awful ways. But what I think technology does give you is it gives you more freedom, more latitude, or maybe more wiggle room, if you prefer, to become better. So it's necessary but not sufficient to make things better. Without moral and ethical progress, whichever framework you prefer, without people becoming better, in addition to the technology, it's wasted. However, without the technology, we don't even get the chance. So necessary but not sufficient. I think that's a good balanced way.